everyone, I'm the Sega Scourge and welcome back to another Sonic What If, for the long overdue Part 3 to What If Sonic Never Lost the Werehog form. Part 2 was in November? It's been a while, but I'm glad to finally be returning to the What If that started the What If series. The premise is, during the finale of Sonic Unleashed, Dark Gaia didn't reclaim its essence from Sonic, and thus, he's kept his Werehog form as he embarks on his future adventures. Last time, Sonic was pulled into the world of Camelot during the tale of Sonic and the Black Knight. There, he sought out the scabbard of Excalibur's healing magic as an antidote to his curse. However, the scabbard's magic had an unintentionally adverse effect on him, spurring the dark energy within, shattering his mind, and transforming him into the Dark Beast Werehog. That's the name I decided on, by the way. Thanks to the mystical power of Excalibur Lancelot, the dark mutation was subsided and Sonic returned to normal. However, unbeknownst to us, this event left him mentally scarred, further realizing the true danger of the Werehog's influence. Since returning from the storybook world, he's just up and vanished. He hasn't been seen since. Tails and Amy have searched high and low for him, but Sonic is nowhere to be found. He's fled into isolation for reasons unknown, most likely due to his ever-increasing fear of losing control of his other self. He didn't even show up for the annual World Grand Prix, something incredibly out of character for him, given his lust for racing and rivalry with Jet. But not long after the quiet events of Freeriders pass, out of nowhere, Eggman's incredible interstellar amusement park is revealed, the centerpiece of the Doctor's claim to reformity. With no sign of Sonic despite Eggman's less than subtle return, Tails has no choice but to head up to the park himself. He boards the ultra-accelerating space elevator and makes his ascent to the tropical resort. Upon arrival, he wanders further into the park, admiring the grandiose layout of the sprawling hotel city. Though some red flags are evident, the place seems totally harmless. Maybe Eggman really has turned over a new leaf. He suddenly overhears a ruckus nearby, and from the corner, he spots Cream and Cheese and Yakka. All three of them are stood in front of a wisp capsule, cornered by Orbot, Cubot, and a battalion of egg pawns.
Now be a good little varmint and hold still!
We can promise your safety once you hand over the aliens.
Tails springs into action and darts in front of Eggman's cronies. He defends the fearful rabbit as the robots take aim with their blasters. But, as they discharge a hail of gunfire upon them, a figure falls from above and blocks the shots. He's back! Sonic the Werehog has arrived on the scene. With little more than a scratch, he cracks his knuckles and faces off against the assailants.
Sorry for crashing the party, but I don't take kindly to some metalheads trying to hurt my friends.
Now, just to cut in quickly, when writing this entry to the story, I faced the issue of what exactly would happen to the Werehog in space. How would the transformation work? Would he be permanently Sonic or permanently Werehog, or... In the beginning of Sonic Unleashed, we see the Werehog in space, and in Night of the Werehog, he's still in the form at the break of dawn, so... I'm gonna give myself a little bit of wiggle room here and say, yes, he would still transform in space, but the sun's rays are what would expunge the form. It just makes things easier. Anyway, the Werehog leaps forward and slams his fist into the two hapless droids, sending them flying off across the park. He then makes short work of the badniks, ripping them to scrap, shocking both Cream and Cheese. With the commotion over, he reunites with Tails, who's overjoyed to see his friend again. Cream politely and nonchalantly asks Sonic what's happened to him, which takes the Hedgehog by surprise. He thought Cream would be frightened of him. Instead, she just compares him to one of her giant stuffed animals. Sonic steers the conversation away from his Werehog form, simply remarking that it's a long story. At the same time, he cracks open the Wisp capsule. The Wisps seem hesitant to come near Sonic at first, mainly due to his rather vicious appearance. But Yakka is curious about the bracelet on Sonic's wrist. The faint green glow coming from the stone seems almost soothing to him. That's when Yakka flies back towards the other Wisps and begins chattering to them in their native dialect. Whatever he said seems to have worked, as the Cyan Wisp approaches and flies into the Werehog's chest, supercharging him with the power of Hyper-Go-On energy. Werehog instinctively throws up his hands as he stumbles backwards in surprise, but as he does so, cyan beams fire from his fingertips and skewer into a nearby building. he clumsily whips his hand away to divert the lasers as Cream and Tails duck down, narrowly avoiding decapitation as the horde of wisps disperse in a panic and the cyan wisp exits Sonic's body. The wisp appears gloomy and somewhat disoriented. Tails notes that it must have something to do with Sonic's Werehog form stimulating the merge, creating an extremely powerful mixture, meaning the resulting color power is far more destructive than it would have been normally. And, rather than taking the shape of a big wisp face like he normally would, the Werehog form only takes on slight physical traits of the wisp, as Dark Gaia's energy is the dominating factor in the unification. Sonic says that he's going to need to be careful if the wisps are going to lend him their strength from here on out. After some imprecise translations courtesy of the Miles Electric, Yakka's plea for help is heard, and Dr. Eggman's evil ambition slowly comes to light. But the scene is interrupted by a large metal hand slamming down between the group. They leap back to see the large welcome sign above one of the gates having now sprouted arms and eyes. It's the Globotron, and from behind the robot, Dr. Eggman appears, piloting his Eggmobile. The Doctor is surprised that Sonic is still toting the feral form, and having not crossed paths with him since Dark Gaia's defeat, he simply assumed it would have vanished. Sonic takes this opportunity to pressingly inquire about the energy inside of him, berating Eggman and demanding that he fix what he caused. The Doctor spots the desperate cracks in Sonic's otherwise impervious attitude. This sends the madman into a laughing fit once he realizes the emotional impact the form has caused the Hedgehog, and subsequently uses the opportunity to hurl ridicule at his nemesis.
What's wrong, Sonic? You seem troubled. Burning the midnight oil by any chance?
Sonic snarls in response, his anger rising as the negative energy takes further hold of him.
Fix that! Fool! When I studied Dark Gaia's essence, I sought to control it. There's no way to completely destroy it. And even if I could, why would I? You're so much more fun this way. Maybe you'd consider being a new attraction to my amusement park. After all, we could use a freak show.
Sonic's rage boils to its tipping point. He's determined to show Eggman just how fun he really is. The Werehog skyrockets towards the Globotron and buries its fist between its eyes, sending it smashing to the ground. It's worth noting that, due to the way the Werehog handled the robot as opposed to base Sonic in the original game, a part of its arm does not shoot off and become lodged in the park's Hyper-Go-On reactor. Eggman is left aghast by the instantaneous defeat of the machine and quickly retreats. Sonic and Tails part ways with Cream and Cheese, instructing them to wait at the space elevator until they come back. Yakka and the duo then take off, headed for the Sweet Mountain. When they arrive, dawn is just barely breaking across the sugar-glazed mountains. Thus, Sonic remains in his Werehog form for the time being. As he and Tails investigate, there are clear signs of a recent struggle. Scorch marks and loose debris are strewn about amidst a pile of scrapped badniks. They follow the trail towards the tractor beam generator, and about halfway across the sticky landscape, there echo sounds of a scuffle. They soon arrive to find Blaze and Silver finishing off a group of egg pawns. Blaze was inexplicably sent here by the Soul Emeralds, and Silver arrived from a peaceful future in the hopes of seeing the greatest amusement park in history. Because that's a good reason to travel back in time. The two time-space visitors are understandably stunned by the Werehog. A lot's happened since they parted ways with Sonic last time.
Hey Sonic. You look...
After some brief chat and vague explanations, they continue on as a group, as the generator comes into view. But their course is halted as metal cannonballs come hurling towards them, revealing a large, biscuit-based pirate ship sailing in. Silver uses his psychic powers to pull the gang out of the firing line. The assailant is none other than Captain Jelly, and just as he's about to attack again, Sonic catapults himself onto the ship and engages the sweet-toothed sailor. Using the power of the red burst wisp, the Werehog breathes a torrent of fire, setting the captain alight before beating him to a squished tin can with his own lollipop sword. The entire ship comes crashing onto the tractor beam generator, shutting it down as Sonic swings back to the others. As he does so, the warm sunlight streams through the clouds, reverting him back to his normal form, leaving Blaze and Silver flabbergasted. His mind now clearer, Sonic suggests that Blaze heads back to the space elevator. Cream and Cheese are on their own there, and they'd surely love to see their interdimensional friend again. Silver seconds this, not wishing to get in Sonic's way. As they leave, Tails reveals that there's some sort of parade according to Eggman's attraction list. This leads Sonic off of the diabetic wonderland and aboard the Starlight Carnival. A Werehog once again, he slings onto the deck of one of the neon ships as a massive space fleet soars by and Tails and Yakka fly down next to him. Soon enough, they spot what looks like Eggman's Eggmobile in the far-off distance. The Werehog grabs a hold of a passing Motobug and rides it across the light road between ships. The Werehog's joyride leads him crashing into a certain gullible red echidna. Knuckles angrily scolds the stranger for running him over, vigorously rubbing the big tire mark on his forehead. However, the moment he sees Tails arrive, the hard-headed Guardian takes a close look at the beast's face and realizes it's Sonic. Knuckles immediately pokes a bit of fun at Sonic's expense, but pulls back after seeing the bitter response from his friend. Instead, attempting to lighten the mood.
So, you want an arm wrestling match?
From above, a rather enchanting voice also chimes in on Sonic's new look. Rouge gently descends and greets them, going on to detail the intel she's gathered about Eggman's operation. She points Sonic in the direction of the energy chain, and he bounds off toward it without a word. Upon arriving at the generator, the scene of Tails' possession plays out as normal. Eggman takes control of the two-tailed fox before running out of energy and departing, leaving Sonic to throw down against the frigate Orkan, ultimately destroying it and disabling another generator. Skipping forward, Sonic and Tails trespass onto the restricted planet Wisp, homeworld of the Wisp race. Sonic reverts to his normal form once again as he and Tails behold the scenic and bountifully calm alien world. It's then that they discover why Eggman has kept this place off limits. He's began the process of terraforming the planet, turning it into another one of his attractions, butchering the lush environment with a host of excavation machines that spill noxious fumes into the air and toxic chemicals into the water. Appalled by the Doctor's actions, Sonic and Tails set out to liberate the planet, speeding off in search of the generator. As they journey into the complex, they bump into a wandering Team Chaotix, having been sent there on an anonymous assignment to investigate Eggman's amusement park. In the midst of light-hearted banter between Vector and Charmy, Espio steps forth.
For the record, Sonic, we already know about your ailment.
Espio? Why'd you go and say that?
I still can't do Vector's voice.
Sonic is baffled that they know about his Werehog form without having actually seen it, but Tails cuts in, admitting the reason behind this. The Fox Boy reveals that while Sonic was away, he asked the Chaotix to keep an eye on him and make sure he was okay. They learned of his Werehog form during their stakeout. Holding himself at fault, Tails earnestly apologizes to Sonic for having done this. Though initially upset by the invasion of privacy, Sonic puts his hand on Tails' shoulder and clears away any guilt his friend is holding. He knows that Tails only did it because he was worried about him. Tails is a good friend. Along with the Chaotix, Sonic, Tails, and Yakka arrive at the generator where the bulk of construction is taking place. After a quick search, Vector finds a computer terminal nearby and Tails steps in. They're soon assaulted by the Drillinator, and Sonic fends it off while the others gather the info that they need. Upon the Drillinator's defeat, Tails confirms a suspicion that he's had since he was zapped by Eggman. The tyrannical Doctor plans on harvesting the Hyper-Goons from the Wisps and using them as fuel for an enormous mind control cannon. Unveiling that the park itself is the cannon, Sonic grips his fists in anger, unintentionally comparing the cannon to the one Eggman used to crack open the Earth. They need to get a move on to free the last two celestial bodies, and thus, the two split from the Chaotix as they head for Aquarium Park, while the Chaotix head for the elevator like the others. Sonic and Tails arrive at the bizarre Oriental Marine exhibit, and Sonic transforms back into the Werehog due to the sunlight not being able to pierce this far underwater. Undeterred, they take off searching for the generator, but it's not long until Sonic bumps into another familiar face, a particular purple pudgy cat.
Huh? Have we met?
What did you expect? Of course Big would be the only character to not know it's Sonic. Just as the Werehog goes to respond, he's suddenly tackled to the ground by a very rattled Amy. The pink hedgehog beats her fists on the Werehog's chest repeatedly, nagging him for leaving her stood up and then disappearing for weeks on end. That's when she stops and realizes that her Sonic is still that thing from back then. After a couple of exchanges, Amy gets off of him and directs him and Tails to a fishy airship circling an odd building just north of there. Afterwards, Sonic cuts in and apologizes to Amy for bailing on their date, promising to take a rain check. Amy just shakes her head, pushing back the apology, telling him that she'll always wait for him. Sonic smiles, giving her a hug and telling her to meet him at the space elevator. Amy nods and drags Big along, as Sonic moves on towards the generator to fight Admiral Jelly. These boss names. With the ferocity only a Werehog can muster, Sonic trashes the Admiral and destroys the tractor beam generator. Meeting back up with Tails, the twin-tailed fox distressingly explains that Yakka has gone missing, surmising that he might have been wisp-napped by one of Eggman's robots. Sonic is now visibly angry. Eggman's gone too far this time. Without wasting a single moment, Sonic takes off for the last attraction, the asteroid coaster. By the time the duo arrive on the scene, sirens are blaring loudly as Eggman robots scramble around from the ensuing chaos. Sonic and Tails use this as cover to start searching for their missing friend, but it's not long before Sonic runs into the cause of said alarms. One vendetta-driven walking arsenal, currently making Swiss cheese of the entire place. Sonic runs up behind him and shouts,
Omega, stand down! You're causing way too much!
But before he can finish, Omega, caught up in his rampage, rotates on his axis and decks Sonic in the face with his fist, sending him hurling into a wall. Realizing his fault, Omega then ceases his attack protocol.
Apologies. I did not recognize you, Blue Meatbag. I am detecting large amounts of negative energy inside your fleshy exterior. Explanation required.
Sonic insists there's no hard feelings, following up with the usual "it's a long story," asking the Scarlet Automaton if he's seen a white wisp with a curl on its head, but Omega says no. The situation growing more critical by each passing second, they head off into the facility, with E-123 following behind them. They soon stumble upon the asteroid coaster's true purpose. The hollowed-out meteor is being used as a front for Eggman's conversion factory, harvesting hypergoons from helpless wisps. Wisp capsules are seen dangling from hooks, feeding into the overhead machine, while cylindrical tanks of nega-wisps rest at the base as the angry, distorted aliens bang against the glass trying to break out. Given the reaction a normal wisp causes when merging with him, Sonic remarks that he'd prefer to stay away from those types of wisps, just to be safe. Then, Tails' eyes catch sight of Yakka, smushed inside one of the capsules along with several of his other kin. In desperation, Tails flies up to try and get it open, as the capsule inches closer and closer towards the extractor. Sonic pulls back his arm, ready to stretch out a punch, but just then, a yellow bolt of energy unhooks the capsule, sending it and Tails tumbling downwards, but the Werehog catches them just in time. They pry open the capsule, releasing the shuddering Yakka, as the mystery savior reveals himself. It's none other than Shadow, who lays eyes on the Werehog for the first time.
What is that ridiculous form?
Ouch. Coming from Shadow, that's particularly scathing, and his wisecrack sends Sonic into a tantrum. He's so sick of people antagonizing him for the way he looks. He adversely tells Shadow to back off. A lot's happened that he doesn't know about. Shadow responds,
I don't care. Just pull yourself together. You have a job to do, Sonic.
Despite the harsh method in which he did it, Shadow's remark actually reaffirms to Sonic that he needs to focus and put his feelings aside if he wants to save the day. Shadow and Omega opt to stay behind and free the wisps from their capsules, while Sonic and Tails focus on shutting down the processing plant. This brings them to the tractor beam generator right as the frigate Scullion soars into their path. With the assistance of a pink spike wisp, the Werehog's color power takes the form of a huge spiked ball and chain, which he violently whirls around his head and throws towards the airship. The impact caves in the Scullion's two heads and splinters its hull, sending it tumbling out of the air and into the generator. And with both the frigate and the generator scrapped, the asteroid coaster goes dark, finally liberating the trapped wisps and cutting off Eggman's hypergoon harvesting. With nowhere else to go, Sonic and Tails, along with Shadow and Omega, return to Tropical Resort to regroup with everyone at the space elevator, in an attempt to figure out their next final plan of attack. As the sun peeks out from around the planet, the Hedgehog regresses to his base form, and the cast are greeted by a flock of wisps, dancing around and celebrating their freedom. By this point, Dr. Eggman sits comfortably in his control room, cackling to himself and boasting his superiority to Orbot and Cubot. Unbeknownst to Sonic & Co., Eggman has already harvested more than enough energy to unleash his mind control. Remember, Globotron's arm isn't lodged in the reactor. He primes the cannon for firing as the entire station shifts and locks into position. The process is cut short, however, as the amusement park is rocked from a massive explosion. From his monitor, the Doctor reads a prompt detailing the escape of the giant alien he captured earlier. On the surface of Tropical Resort, the heroes are thrown about by the sudden tremor as the large hulking frame of a twisted, violet-colored monster ascends from around the side of the park, leering at the entire group despite the creature's lack of eyes. Most of them are visibly shaken, while others look ready to defend themselves. Yakka is burbling in distress while Tails translates, finding one line of dialogue that catches everyone off guard.
That's your mom?
The group is dumbfounded by Tails' statement as one of the Nega Mother Wisp's humongous tentacles starts tearing up the resort area, and Yakka pleads with Sonic to help bring her back to her senses. The BluexBlur states that there's only one thing to do, the same thing he did to Perfect Chaos. Just then, the 7 Chaos Emeralds appear around him. Turns out, he's had them on him this whole time. He gathered up all 7 while he was gone, should the need arise for them. Charging up, the emeralds swirl into his body and he transforms into Super Sonic. He takes off in a streak of golden light and bashes into the Nega Mother Wisp, knocking her away from the resort and into open space. The final battle begins as Super Sonic hurtles towards the corrupted progenitor like a chaos-infused missile. Nega Mother Wisp attempts to inhibit Sonic's approach with an energy beam fired from the bloom on her forehead, but the Hedgehog's speed has him barrel roll to safety with each passing blast. He's instantly upon her, ready to deliver a supersonic spin attack. But as he does so, the Nega Mother Wisp, at nearly 10 meters tall, blots out the sun, casting a shadow over Sonic. This momentarily shifts Super Sonic into the Super Werehog, and with its emphasis on power rather than speed, the Mother Wisp swats him away with one of her tendrils. With the creature's size causing its own eclipse, Sonic devises a strategy to use both super forms to his advantage. He begins maneuvering in and out of the sun's rays, rapidly changing between forms, closing the gap with Super Sonic and attacking with Super Werehog. As they swoop around each other, the Werehog's raw strength along with Sonic's pure speed manage to wear down the Nega Mother Wisp, administering several blows to her floral weak point. But just then, Sonic realizes something alarming. He's hit her countless times, but Mother Wisp shows no signs of nullification. This fight should have been over ages ago. Little does he know, Dark Gaia's essence is preventing him from neutralizing Mother Wisp's negativity. And while Super Sonic's positive energy should allow this, Super Werehog utilizes both positive and negative energies of the Chaos Emeralds, further disrupting the endeavor. Try as he might, it's not working. In that moment, the Nega Mother Wisp becomes cognitively aware of the losing battle she's fighting, and in a desperate case of self-preservation, she suddenly widens her dark, gaping maw and begins inhaling, as a massive vortex forms from the cavity. Super Werehog is swept up by the suction and dragged into the Nega Mother Wisp's mouth. He stretches out his arms and grabs hold of her fangs, using all his might to desperately pull himself out. But the Mother Wisp is the creator of all wisps and Planet Wisp itself. As such, she commands incredible cosmic power. With his ring energy waning, the Super Werehog lets out a fearful cry as the creature's jaws come crashing down, swallowing him whole in a swift, brutal motion, and leaving his friends to look on in horror. Jeez, this is getting kind of grim. I'm gonna reach for this. Why did she just eat the Werehog? Well, realizing she couldn't defeat him, she instead absorbed him. This is the complete antithesis to how Sonic absorbs the Wisps to utilize their power. Purple smoke spews from the Nega Mother Wisp's mouth. She roars as her gigantic body begins mutating, taking on the vague likeness of Sonic himself. The forced fusion now overloading her power with both Dark Gaia energy and all 7 Chaos Emeralds, the new Nega Mother Wisp goes on a near-apocalyptic rampage as energy beams erupt from every orifice on her body, colliding into nearly every single planet nearby. Eggman's amusement park is hit hard and fiercely, throwing everyone off their feet as the beams shred the resort apart. Several more beams rain down onto Sonic's world below, striking down with the force of a mini eclipse cannon, causing catastrophic damage. but Planet Wisp receives the worst of the attack, as the brunt of Mother Wisp's wrath shatters it to pieces completely, the wisps fleeing into space as their home disintegrates under their non-existent feet. Hope starts to dwindle among the rest of the heroes. Even trying to get close to the monster would result in their deaths, and none of the wisps would be willing to fight against their own mother out of fear of hurting her. Blaze unveils the Soul Emeralds, the stones that brought her to Sonic's dimension. As their protector, she'd been keeping them safe, but given the severity of the situation, she suggests becoming Burning Blaze, but Shadow quickly throws that idea out the window, as it would risk her being absorbed too. Then, as things start to look like the end, a spark of genius hits Tails. In a last-ditch effort, he spouts off the idea of firing Eggman's mind control cannon at the Nega Mother Wisp. The others firmly reject this idea, as controlling her wouldn't solve anything, but Tails interjects. The Nega Mother Wisp is, well, a Nega Wisp, right? And the Nega Wisps are created when a wisp is drained of their Hyper-Go-On, right? Well, isn't Eggman's cannon powered by Hyper-Go-On? The realization hits them like a freight train. They need to find that control room fast. Meanwhile, deep inside the bowels of the monstrous Mother Wisp, the Werehog floats unconscious amidst a haze of purple energy, and the Chaos Emeralds hover idly beside him. He's not dead yet, but he's not doing too good either. In his slumber, he's wrought with the same type of night terrors he's been suffering from ever since his battle with Dark Gaia. In his dreams, Sonic, in his normal form, stands alone within a black void. As he stares into the unending darkness, a quiet sobbing can be heard nearby. He turns to see the pure Mother Wisp floating overhead. Her eyes are closed, and tears stream down her face. The moment Sonic tries to reach out for her, a giant, long-nailed claw reaches out and grips her tightly, pulling her into the darkness as she lets out a disturbing shriek. The sound ripples through Sonic's body as he steps back in terror and turns to flee. But as he rotates, something causes him to choke up and fall backwards onto the floor. Looming over him is a gargantuan, twisted version of the Werehog, body littered with teeth and morose magenta hues. Bulbous eyeballs protrude from the palms of its 4 hands, its head, and even where its tongue should be. Each of them glare upon Sonic, boring into his soul. This grotesque behemoth represents the physical embodiment of Dark Gaia's energy, and Sonic's fear of losing control. Sonic covers his eyes in an attempt to wake up as the nightmare grins and leans in closer to the hedgehog. Back in reality, Tails and the gang break into Eggman's control room thanks to Omega's firepower. Finding the place abandoned, Tails starts typing into the console. The space elevator that bridges the park to the world snaps in half as the entire amusement park begins to pivot, shifting towards the rampaging Nega Mother Wisp. Thankfully, the Hyper-Go-On reactor wasn't ruptured by the Mother Wisp's attack earlier, and with the target in sight, Tails slams the lever to its max firing power, unleashing every drop of Hyper-Go-On that Eggman's gathered so far. Debris cracks loose from the gigantic structure as a tremendous magenta wave erupts from it. The Nega Mother Wisp is running so rampant that she doesn't notice the oncoming beam, which strikes her, encasing her in the ray's hold. A white luminescence pours from the creature's body as she roars, so bright that the cast have to cover their eyes from the intensity. But from the dying light, the group look on in wonderment to see the cleansed Mother Wisp has now appeared, her stolen energy having been returned to her. While still retaining some of Sonic's features, she looks far more benevolent than the lavender-coated menace from earlier. Her mind restored, she utters a sorrowful whine as she observes the destruction that she has caused. She closes her eyes as a powerful shockwave is released from her body and washes over the surrounding planets. Miraculously, the worlds begin to heal to their previous states, undoing the damage done and restoring Planet Wisp and removing Eggman's industrialization. Werehog Sonic is then expelled from Mother Wisp's body as both she and Sonic revert to their normal forms. The Wisps fly up and catch the falling hero and gently return him back to the surface of the park. The gang crowd around Sonic as the Wisps set him down, waiting for a response from their spiny friend. As Sonic stirs, he lets out a mutter before suddenly, with a strained gasp, Sonic finally regains consciousness, surrounded by his entire group of friends. Everyone's relieved to see he's alive and in one piece after being consumed. All's well that ends well, right? Well, just as things seem peaceful, Dr. Eggman crashes up from the ground, his Eggmobile adorned in the Nega-Wisp armor, with many wisps still encapsulated inside. Everyone is startled from the Doctor's surprise appearance, and as a result, no one is prepared when he unleashes a laser, blowing everyone back and surrounding Sonic with blue cubes. Orbot and Cubot pop up from the cockpit as Eggman gloats. The heroes haven't won yet, and with Sonic barely able to stand, he finally has him right where he wants him. A distorted voice calls out "Frenzy!" as the entire mech begins to glow purple. The mech's appendages raise into the air and swing straight downward towards the hedgehog, and then... Eggman raises the armor's tentacle to see that a pink barrier has materialized from thin air, shielding Sonic from harm. The Nega-Wisp armor suddenly and abruptly shuts down. The glass pods shatter, releasing the captive wisps as the machine slams to the ground immobile. Eggman looks around in confusion before slowly turning around and staring into the face of a very upset Mother Wisp.
She looks mad, boss. Perhaps it has something to do with how you ravaged her planet's natural resources and kidnapped all of her offspring.
Within the next 3 seconds, a blue light envelops Eggman, and in a blink, he and the armor are completely gone. Everyone questions where Eggman vanished to, and Yacker explains, thanks to Tails' translator, that Mom sent him to the farthest side of the galaxy where he can do no harm to the world or any other world ever again. Yeah, we'll see how long that one lasts. In addition, Mother Wisp expresses her thanks to Sonic and everyone for helping save her and her children. She's deeply sorry for the trouble that she's caused them. Sonic smirks, telling her not to worry about it. Mother Wisp then expresses her concern over the malevolent force still lingering inside Sonic's body. She explains that it's beyond her power to release the darkness that's latching onto him. All she could do was temporarily put it to sleep. However, she goes on to add that a kind spirit appears to be watching over him, motioning her tentacle to the bracelet on Sonic's wrist, and stating that she heard it speak to her. Sonic realizes that his old friend must have been calling out to Mother Wisp. 2 completely different godlike entities interacting with each other from across space. Now that's something you don't hear every day. With Yacker and Mother Wisp saying their final goodbyes, Mother Wisp warps Sonic and his friends back to the surface of their planet before unleashing yet another pulse of Hyper-Go-On, curing the Nega-Wisps affected by Eggman. Finally, each of the chained worlds vanish, returning to their regular places in the universe, and jettisoning the now ruined amusement park into a black hole. Sonic looks to the sky with newfound determination, resolute to continue seeking out a cure for his condition. And that's where we're gonna end the story for right now. So, what do you guys think? How did you feel about the Werehog's involvement in Sonic Colors? What did you think of the Wisp forms and the Mother Wisp gobbling up the Werehog? Could Sonic be getting worse, as evidenced by his horrific vision of his nightmare self? And what are your ideas for the Werehog's inclusion in the next game in the series? Please share your thoughts with me in the comments below. I've been the Sega Scourge, and I'll see you guys in the next Sonic What If. Take care.